A common trend I see in the art world is a this versus that mentality in terms of traditional versus digital art. I'm a traditional artist, but I can definitely see the benefits of getting into both and learning about each one. This is going to be the pros and cons of digital and traditional art and why it's not one versus the other. Hi, and welcome to Brittany Henderson Creative Arts. Thank you for being here. I'm a traditional artist. I love the look and feel of traditional art. I like the way the aesthetic is. I enjoy being able to feel the pencil or whatever medium I'm using. But I can definitely see the benefit of digital art and can see myself eventually learning some of that as well. If I had to choose traditional versus digital art, it would be traditional art every time. But here are some pros and cons to each. Traditional art is cheaper up front. So when you're looking at traditional art, you can typically go with some colored pencils or whatever your medium of choice is. And there are different price ranges depending on what quality you want to go with. But you can pick up a pretty decent professional even, but also some student grade pencils, for example, for a pretty good price. And you can also grab a sketchbook that's decent quality or even professional quality and spend a lot less upfront, even going for professional materials, than you necessarily would on digital, especially if you're looking into a starter pack. So as long as you're not going into getting a lot of different pencils at the same time, it can definitely be, and usually is, a lot cheaper than it's going to be starting out with digital art. Of course, it depends on whether you already have some of the products needed, whether you already have a tablet to be able to get started on digital art, but that is going to be a more upfront expensive cost if you don't have one. And you also have to consider looking into what type of digital art apps or types of downloads you're going to use to be able to get your digital art started. So if cost is an issue, unless you already have some of the materials, that's usually going to be the route that's going to be cheaper, more cost effective starting out. Digital art is less cumbersome and messy. So if you've already watched some of my previous videos, I've mentioned before how I really like traditional art mediums of charcoal and graphite colored pencil. Charcoal is definitely going to be messy. Graphite can get a little messy, but charcoal is going to be one that smudges a lot more. Now, if you're going with digital art, you don't have that to worry about. You can just have your things ready and available, and it's not going to cause a lot of mess. Especially being left-handed myself, I get into the thing that all of us lefties, if you know this struggle of being in school when I was younger and my hand would smear across the paper because a lot of things just aren't designed for lefties. So it's definitely something I've run across even more within my art than maybe your average person would. Now, as far as paint, which I haven't worked with, but for that, you're going to need an easel. You're going to need all the things to go with it. So that's going to be a little bit less of something you can sit down on the couch with and just really enjoy in the same way that you could a sketchbook and a pencil or a digital art medium. Me personally, I like being able to sit down and just get some coffee, get in my pajamas, do art. That's usually where I find a lot of my inspiration, is when I can just relax with my art. That doesn't mean that I don't use my art space that I have set aside that you all have seen in my videos. I like to use that for my art, particularly though I use it a lot for videos. A lot of the times this is not where I sit and draw. When I first started, a lot of the appeal to me was trying to find something that could be a stress reliever. So the fact that I can sit down and enjoy art without all of that stress and just be able to relax on the couch is an appeal for someone like me who, as you all have seen by the style of my videos, I try to make it a very chill, relaxed, cozy, grab your coffee or tea type of atmosphere. Traditional art is easier to learn for beginners. So with traditional art, you don't have the added concern of trying to also learn how to use the software that's needed. Just like with these videos I edit, not only do you have to film the material, but you also have to learn the editing software. When you're working with digital art, you have to do the same. You have to learn pretty much the platform that you're going to be using and then try to utilize that to be able to draw. So even if someone's been drawing for a long time, a lot of times they can experience a little bit of a setback when they try to get that same look of the art that they've been doing for so long to transfer into what they're picturing when they're trying to apply it to this new platform of digital art that they've never done before. With traditional art, you avoid all of that starting out. And I do think it is a good one to start out with, and I've heard many people say that you should start out with traditional art because it's something that you can actually get the feel of the pencil or paintbrush and learn different pressure applications that are not going to be quite the same in terms of learning art digitally. But again, if you really enjoy digital art, I would say stick to that. Go first and foremost with what you enjoy. If what you really enjoy is the look of digital art, then I would say go with that. Traditional art offers less grace for error making. So when you're working with digital art, it's easy to go in and just undo something that you've done by a couple of keyboard punches and you've completely erased what you've done. As far as traditional art, you have to go in and erase, and a lot of people don't like doing that. They say don't erase because you want to get used to being able to make mistakes and be okay with those mistakes. Another thing is if you over erase, you're going to end up with some things that you just can't fix. I've had that happen even when I didn't over erase, and there would be a mark that I don't know how it got there, and I'm not sure if it was just the way that that paper was or something, or if it really was me, but it created almost a break in the paper by just barely erasing. And I think it was like the first time I erased. I think it's definitely more of a pro if you're a beginner to go with traditional art because you have to get some confidence in making mistakes or being able to work with those mistakes. It definitely expands your creativity, I think, because you have to then learn how to make that mistake work into your piece. I don't think a lot of videos generally show the very early stages of becoming an artist, and that's part of what the hope is for this channel, is to just show the journey and just having a chill draw with me session. I really love watching those types of videos myself, and that's part of the goal for this channel as well. So be sure to like, subscribe, and check out my new art shop. I'll see y'all next time. Bye for now.